If you didn't already guess it, it's me, Mrs. Melanson. I was the pig 2.0. I hope you liked Mr. McGee and his camping spree.
Good afternoon, boys and girls. I'm going to read to you today's story called Owl Moon by Jane Yolen. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright it was as if the whole sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us a train whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. I could hear it through the woolen cap Pa had pulled down over my ears. A farm dog answered the train, and then a second dog joined in. They sang out trains and dogs for a real long time, and when their voices faded away, it was as quiet as a dream. We walked on toward the woods, Pa and I. Our feet crunched over the crisp snow, and little gray footprints followed us. Pa made a long shadow, but mine was short and round. I had to run after him every now and then to keep up, and my short, round shadow followed me. But I never called out. If you go owling, you have to be very, very quiet. That's what Pa says. I had been waiting to go owling with Pa for a very long time. We reached the line of pine trees, black and pointy against the sky, and Pa held up his hand. I stopped right where I was and I waited. He looked up as if searching the stars, as if reading a map up there. The moon made his face into a silver mask. Then he called out, "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." It was the sound of a great horned owl. Again he called out. After each call he was silent, and for a moment we both listened. But there was no answer. Pa shrugged and I shrugged. I was not disappointed. My brothers had told me, sometimes you find an owl and sometimes you don't. We walked on. I could feel the cold, as if someone's icy hand was palmed down on my back, and my nose and the tops of my cheeks were both warm and cold at the same time. But I never said a word. If you go owling, you have to be quiet, and you have to make your own heat. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I had ever seen. They stained the white snow. My mouth felt furry, for the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kinds of things hid behind those black trees in the middle of the night, because when you go owling, you have to be brave. Then we came to a clearing in the dark woods. The moon was high above us, and it seemed to fit exactly over the center of the clearing, and the snow below it was whiter than the milk in a cereal bowl. I sighed, and Pa held up his hand at the sound. I put my mittens over the scarf, over my mouth, and I listened hard. "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo," Pa called. I listened and looked so hard my ears hurt and my eyes got cloudy with the cold. Pa raised his face to call out again, but before he could open his mouth, an echo came threading its way through the leaves in the trees. "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." Pa almost smiled. Then he called back, "Hoo, hoo, hoo," just as if he and the owl were talking about supper or the woods or the moon or the cold. I took my mitten off my scarf, off my mouth, and I almost smiled too. The owl's call came closer from high up in the trees on the edge of the meadow. Nothing in the meadow moved. All of a sudden, an owl's shadow, part of the big tree shadow, lifted off and flew right over us. We watched silently with heat in our mouths, the heat of all of those words that we had not spoken. The shadow hooted again. Pa turned on his big flashlight and caught that owl just as it was landing on a branch. For 1 minute, 3 minutes, maybe even 100 minutes, we stared at each other, that owl and I. Then the owl, pumping his great wings, lifted off the branch like a shadow without sound. It flew back into the forest. "Time to go home," Pa said. I knew then that I could have talked, I could have even laughed. But I was only a shadow as we walked home. When you go owling, you don't need words or warmth or anything but hope. That's what Pa says. The kind of hope that flies on silent wings under a shining owl moon. I hope you enjoyed the story, boys and girls.